Warren, I'd like to talk a bit about the process itself of embarking on Environmental Planting's carbon farming project. There's a bit to it, right from that initial feasibility study, understanding where on the farm it is that you'd like to plant the trees, whether or not whether you want to create shade and shelter, plant out some of those less productive zones, or plant out the riparian zones as well. Then you've got to think about, actually, am I eligible to carry out a project? Do I have the right rainfall? Which for an ACCU scheme project under the EP method is 600 mil average per annum. And then obviously, do you have enough cleared land for this to be a viable project? Then, fast forward, then you've got to think about getting some of that modelling done. Then you've got to actually get the registration done with the Clean Energy Regulator. So all of a sudden, there's a whole lot to it. Yeah. So in terms of getting advice and support to start that project yourself, how did you sort of tackle those issues?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tim, and I think it's probably the area that probably scares a lot of farmers off.
Yeah.
From getting into a project. We were fortunate that we did our project as a larger project with some other landholders.
Mm-hmm.
So we had one organisation in particular that put the project together, so the Carbon Farming Foundation.
Oh yeah.
And they were instrumental in basically ticking all those boxes that you got to tick, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, as a producer and as a farmer, you can go down the road of doing it all yourself, but it's a little bit of a minefield. I think having CFF help us along that journey has been fundamental.
So with the audit and the reporting costs, Warren, so Carbon Farming Foundation or getting a third party to help you, that was important for you?
Oh, look, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at it at the beginning of the process and I thought, this doesn't look too hard. But when you really drill into it, there is certainly in the beginning, in terms of establishing the project, there's a lot to do. In terms of the paperwork component of it, but there's also on-ground stuff around planning. And
you mentioned ACCUs just a moment ago. So you'll be generating ACCUs obviously over a 25-year crediting period. When you do get those offset reports in and you do get credited ACCUs, what are you planning to do with them?
Bank them. And I think, for us, the tree carbon project is a little bonus.
Sure.
In terms of what we're doing on a broader landscape scale.
And Warren, finally, I suppose there'll be landholders thinking about potentially maybe undertaking an environmental plantings project themselves, thinking about some of those risks, some of those opportunities. So what would you say to a farmer that's thinking about undertaking an environmental plantings project on their property?
Yeah, probably my number one advice would be don't do it just for the carbon offsets. I think you need to identify the co-benefits.
Sure.
And certainly in our case, it was the co-benefits that came first. The carbon project was secondary. Not to mention, not to say that the carbon project isn't important, because it is, and it's only becoming more so from a financial perspective, because the price of ACCUs for an EP project is trading at a significant premium to the standard ACCU price, and I think you need to view it as an investment, but also really firmly have in your mind what the co-benefits are. And as we've spoken about already, there's a myriad of co-benefits. And I think while where we are, we're very high in the landscape, and we're looking really at what these trees are going to do for us up on top of the landscape in terms of rehydrating it. But even, producers that are on relatively flat country, there's going to be co-benefits to them, and particularly in the higher rainfall, wetter, colder areas, there's all those benefits for the livestock by putting trees in.
That's fantastic. And, look, insofar as these are long-term projects, we're talking, 25 years, can have permanence obligations for 25 or even 100 if the project proponent so chooses to. So I think what you're saying is, and what's sort of resonating for me is really digging into those co-benefits and getting the right design, getting the right advice, and getting it really working in with your existing farming operations is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that permanence period is an interesting one. We looked at it for about 2 seconds and went 100 years.
Yeah. Because
obviously there's an ACCU premium in doing 100 years over 25. But really for us, it was drilling down into why we were putting these trees here in the first place. I'll retire from this farm one day and I'll be 6 foot under one day, but I'll be comfortable in the knowledge that these trees are still going to be here in 100 years' time.
So Warren, thanks so much for showing us around today. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here at Blackwood Valley Beef to learn about your environmental plantings project and how you've been able to integrate it within your existing Angus beef operations.
No problems at all, Tim. It was a pleasure having you guys here, and part of the reason we set this project up was to show other people what we're doing, and hopefully we'll inspire some other producers to get on board.
No doubt. So clearly no two farms are the same, which is why it's always important to get as much information as you can to make such a critical decision around what's right for your farm. That's also why we have produced an Environmental Plantings Explainer Guide, which aims to provide a high-level overview of the process and, importantly, where you can get your own independent information. Reach out to your local Rabobank team to get a copy of the guide or to discuss any aspect of your sustainability and business strategy.